In today's video, I want to begin a pretty ambitious journey, something which I've actually attempted before, but not to this kind of scale. Recently, I've been covering a lot of cut content in Cyberpunk, particularly locations that were supposed to be in the game that never really came to fruition. One of those being the cut casino from North Oak, this very infamous building which is in the game but is pretty broken and only barely functioning, but most importantly not accessible by the player. I particularly enjoy this kind of area inside the casino. It's empty, but at the same time it does have working collision on the floor and the walls. This is a pretty decent foundation to build something upon. So welcome to episode 1 of restoring Cyberpunk 2077's infamous casino. And again, it goes without saying, if you enjoy this kind of content, please do consider subscribing. It'd really make my day. Thank you. So when tackling something like this, obviously the biggest thing to consider first of all is actually practicality. How is this place going to work? How is it going to be fluid? You know, how am I going to be able to walk around this place and know that I'm not going to fall into some kind of scary abyss where Margaret Thatcher lives? You know, it has to be consistent, it has to be structurally sound. So this is the first thing which I'm trying to fix with the casino, is basically filling in all of these empty holes in the floor. You know, obviously this place is unused, it was probably developed at some point in time but never really finished. So essentially all I'm trying to do with this location to begin with is just make it playable, to just be able to walk from one end to the other. Luckily I found this really nice object, which is a very thin sheet of metal, I think, but most importantly it has collision. So you can walk on this thing and it will behave in pretty much the same way as the actual casino floor. So it just means that I can walk over these empty holes and not have to worry about falling. So this is what they look like. They don't look great, you know, they look pretty shit if anything, but that's not their purpose. You know, they're not there to look pretty, they're there to provide a functional purpose. Because with that collision nailed down, I can then actually put a floor on top, so it doesn't look like shit. A lot of these flooring items, like, you know, these big wooden panels, don't come with collision. So, you know, you need some kind of object that has collision, and then you can put like essentially a texture on top of it to kind of create the illusion. You know, no one knows that there's this ugly floor underneath, they just see the wood. The first issue which I encountered though is this clipping, where the ugly floor is kind of going through the wooden floor. So I sort of had two options with this. Either I can raise it up, which looks a little bit strange but not, you know, horrendous, or I can change around the material. I decided to just, you know, change the floor level, essentially, just bump it up a little bit so nothing's clipping through. But then obviously this is going to look a little bit weird if just part of the floor looks like this. So I made the executive decision to just basically cover this entire original floor with a new floor, which is still similar, it's still modern wood. It doesn't look quite as nice, but for consistency it absolutely makes sense. Plus there's a lot of dodgy clipping going on with this place, a lot of objects that will probably start popping through the floor, so to just kind of cover it, you know, just smother it in like a flat object is probably the best thing. It's worth mentioning, obviously I'm using the appearance menu mod, which is only really supposed to be used for like very small things. I kind of pushed this thing to like its absolute fucking limit. I think as of recording I had about 230 props already, so it's very temperamental and it's probably going to explode. But this is kind of all we have, you know, until there's some kind of map editor. This is sort of the best we got. You'll notice that this floor has some weird little bits of clipping where you can kind of tell that it's like individual pieces molded together. And the thing is, you know, to be really honest with you, I can't do anything about that. That's just the way it is. But it's not the end of the world, because, you know, similar to just putting down a floor that has collision, right now we're just basically trying to make this place flat. We're trying to make it look thematically consistent. If there's some little lines on the floor, you know, some little weird bits that look like they're slightly higher or lower than the others, like this, it's no issue. We can cover it with things. What matters is that there's just a consistent foundation, which we now have, and I think it looks pretty good. So keeping in the theme of, you know, practicality, I'm now just trying to fix all of the collision on the walls for this room. You can see on the left hand corner there's just like a chunk of the building that's missing, and as well these golden walls all the way around this casino have some pretty questionable collision. Some of it is you know, pretty, I don't know, accurate, others aren't. Like you can see I just fell over for no reason. So again, similar to the floor, I'm just trying to make this consistent and reliable by popping in the very top of a wall, just where the silver white bit is. And this thing has collision as well, so I can just run this all the way around the perimeter of the casino. It doesn't look great by any means, but again, it serves a practical function. So the idea of this place obviously is that it's a casino, it's a luxury resort, and of course it's situated in North Oak, right? So it's for the top of the top, the absolute goddamn 1%. So this place has to look very luxurious, it has to look crispy and professional. This is not your kind of average Joe location, this is going above and beyond for wealth. This bit here is my attempt at trying to cover up these windows, just because there's some really dodgy lighting in this place. You know, clearly it's not finished, so it's not going to be perfect. But my thinking was that if I maybe covered the windows, then it would somewhat impact the lighting. I don't think it does, but you never know. Here as well, again, just trying to make this place kind of physically reliable. These corners I'm just trying to fill in. We've got these nice Arasaka pillars, which look pretty good, and I would say are pretty consistent with the theming, but they also have collision, so they can block off these kind of corners of the building and hide the fact that there's a big chunk of them missing. This thing was pretty difficult to sort out though, just because it wasn't big enough, so you can see the glass kind of doesn't marry up right, so ended up having to duplicate this thing a few times and sort of awkwardly combine it into like one three-dimensional pillar. Again, practical but also aesthetic. I'd say it looks alright. It's not perfect, you know, none of this is ever going to be perfect, but it looks alright, it serves a purpose. So now we move on to a little bit of interesting stuff. The actual kind of infrastructure of this place is pretty much done, or at least this one room right here. Now I want to pop some lighting in, just to try and make this place feel a little bit more like home and less of a kind of shell. The casino has always seemed like an orange place to me. I don't really know what that is. Maybe because it's surrounded by a lot of dry land. So I don't know, but orange I like. It's cozy, it's quite inviting. So this little bit here was originally intended to be a bar. I got this nice marble counter which doesn't have any collision, but of course with these shiny metal strips going along the outside which do have collision, it doesn't really matter. You know, you can marry them up and you never know. Really nice object this. Again, really modern, really keeping in the theme of a very luxurious casino. And I like this so much that I just decided to extend this again all the way around this part of the casino to essentially make this not even a bar but just a wall, you know, just a part of the structure itself. And I think it comes out looking really fucking nice, so I'm happy with it. This is one of the most annoying parts about modding in Cyberpunk, is that your progress will just randomly be lost for no reason. All of that is just gone, so I had to start again. So right now, it's pretty clear to me that this area, which I've just kind of touched up a little bit, made it look a little bit more approachable and functional, should be its own room, right? It makes sense. This building's pretty big, and I suppose you could look at it as some kind of dining room. That is definitely possible. But to me at least, I wanted to keep it separate. I wanted to keep it kind of like a half and half sort of affair. So the idea of this place, which we've just been, you know, building and touching up, is essentially to be like a little snug, you know, like a little ultra VIP room where the rich can get away from the hustle and bustle of the slot machines and the fruities and the roulette and whatnot, and just go for a drink and kind of chill out a bit, discuss biz. So right now I'm just trying to make this room its own entity, just trying to separate it from the rest of the casino, just because on one hand, it, you know, aesthetically kind of makes sense, but 2 as well serves a practical purpose. It means that when I come to actually putting down props in this place and trying to make it look believable, I won't have to tackle an entire open planned area. You know, it's kind of like 2 smaller rooms rather than 1 big room. And again, kind of more variety, more to play around with. These walls are really nice. I'm really in love with these. I think they look great, and they're really fitting with the casino as well. So I'm very happy with how these are looking. They marry up nicely, they clip together beautifully. So really I'm just going to extend it all the way along, make sure everything's level, and allow this room to exist in private. The only downside to these things is that they're one-sided, so on the other side they're essentially not textured. So I'll have to duplicate this when it comes to doing the other room. But for now I can pretend like it works perfectly. And, well, I would say it looks good. And this is where we're at. We went from nothing to something. And I think it looks good. I think it's a good foundation. And we can build upon this, most definitely. So cheers for watching, guys. Stay tuned for episode 2. Cheers, guys. I'll catch you lot in a bit.